Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another week of the Let's Talk Social Innovation podcast. I hope you've had an amazing start to your week, but if not, we can kickstart that right here. I'm your host, Ian Kahinde, and y'all know the deal. Got to get through this week's bulletin board. So first and foremost, join Pittsburgh's Art and Lectures for 10 evenings on February 10th at 7:30 p.m. at Carnegie Music Hall featuring Antonia Hylton to discuss her book, Madness. There will be a Q&A following her presentation with FHC writer-in-residence Damon Young. 10 free tickets are available for FHC students, so claim yours with the link in the description before they're gone. Next up, step into the world of late-night television with fellow FHC students on February 15th at 7:40 p.m. in an unforgettable evening of music and storytelling as seen on The Tonight Show, The Late Show, and more. Highlighting the rich connection between music and storytelling, shared from their unique perspective, they'll offer a rare glimpse into the magic behind late-night TV's most iconic moments. Transportation will be provided. Next up, join FHC on February 18th for a special screening of the 2002 film Drumline in celebration of Black History Month. This comedy drama film follows a naturally gifted drummer from Harlem as he helps his Atlanta College marching band defeat their longtime rival. More updates to come. Honors OCC will be provided. The 2025 FHC Research and Creative Expression Symposium will be held on Friday, March 28th at University Club on Pittsburgh campus. It's an important opportunity for FHC students and recipients of FHC-administered research, creative arts, and community research fellowships to present their work to their peers and faculty from a variety of fields across the university. Apply at the link in the description below to present your work by February 26th. And last but not least, applications are now open through Wednesday, February 26th for paid summer fellowships and internships with FHC's Offices of Research and Community Engaged Learning. Programs include the Frederick and Keefe Public Service internships along with these fellowships: Brackenridge, Community Research, Creative Arts, Health Sciences, and 2 specialized Brackenridge options for projects including sustainability or work with the Dick Thornburg Archive. As always, all things mentioned in this bulletin board will be available for you on the screen right about now. And now, bygones be bygones, everything else aside, the reason why we are here on the Indiana University of Pennsylvania campus, the incredible Dr. Roger Briscoe. How are we feeling today?
I'm feeling really good. Besides the cold, I'm doing good.
Oh yeah, no, my windows froze this morning. It was ridiculous.
Biting cold. But yes, I'm doing well, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. It's warm in this corner, so it was good enough for me.
A little bit of sunshine and a lot of heat.
Oh yeah. So, y'all, as always, we'll be going through Dr. Briscoe's life story, the formative events that have made him who he is. And, of course, as always, he'll pass on his best life advice to the audience. Then, as always, we'll have our Haven Artist Spotlight. And the second half, we're going to talk about code switching. So, anyways, take me from the beginning, Dr. Briscoe.
All right. So I grew up here in Indiana, PA. My dad was a professor here at IUP for, I believe, 33 years. Retired right after COVID, and went to Ben Franklin Elementary, the junior high and senior high here in Indiana, PA. And growing up, I was in elementary school, the only black person in my class. As the days and years went, more people of color started to come through, but that I can remember, all elementary school, I was the only black kid there. I always liked to keep my hair short. And it was always that rubbing of the head. All my friends, I liked it. I thought it was fun and funny. But as you grow up, you look back and you're like, man, they did pet me.
Was that micro or was it macro?
Right? It's like, which one was this? But as I continue to express, I had like an amazing group of people who were in my class, like my graduating class, who came up with me. So I truly don't believe they did it as any kind of aggression, micro or macro, but it's just like a curiosity
Childish
thing.
ignorance.
Yeah, childish ignorance. I definitely attested to that. But as I came up again, that was majority of my elementary was just everyone was always nice, cordial, good, especially being in Western PA. Yeah, I don't know if you would always expect that because you never know how individuals are raised. The community that we're in sometimes is a little bit of a grain, at least it feels like it, against the people of color, the black community. Sometimes we're wrong, but sometimes we're right. So as I got older and older, growing up around here, you just get a little more cautious as you notice things. Going into junior high, I started playing sports. So I was kind of starting to deem myself as the token black kid because I was the athlete, doing pretty good in school. My dad was a professor, so I better do good in school.
Yeah.
So kind of becoming that role. And so through that role, I was kind of pursuing it and trying to make it real. So I would be the person to sag my pants, talk a certain way. Even though I was growing up in Indiana, PA, my dad was from DC, my mom was from Detroit, Michigan. So back when gas was 99 cents, you probably don't even know what that's like. We would travel a lot. So I'd go to the city a lot. So I'd get to know people who look like me, get to know what culture is about and those different types of things. So I like to think and know that I got to know who I am as an African American, especially through what my dad said. He grew up struggling, very low income family, told stories. My mom, again from Detroit, Michigan, was able to tell stories, let us know how things are real, go to the city, show us what was real. So throughout junior high and high school, got to understand, know those things, understand, again, just who I am as an African American growing up in this society.
So when did you grow out of that black athlete stereotype?
I don't think I grew out of it till I went to college. So going into high school, it was still kind of the same thing. So here it's like elementary schools all over the place, and then junior high, all the elementary schools come together. I'm sure it's like that in other places too. So once we went to junior high, there was more people of color that I got to see and got to know, okay, there's more of me in this community. Aside from the fact I went to a church that was predominantly black people, Victory Christian Assembly. It's a church that is a congregation mostly of college students, so IUP college students, because our pastor also used to be a professor at IUP, and his passion was to be there for the college students. So majority of my interaction, since there wasn't many people of color in elementary school and junior high and everything, there was more in junior high and high school, but a lot of my interactions was college students because I went to a predominantly black church that was majority college students for who were coming here on campus. So that was another dynamic. You got to see it, and then you kind of got to live it, but on a church end. So everyone tries to be good when you're in church. You don't really know. When you're a kid, you don't know how they're living outside of that. Now that you grow up, maybe you have a better understanding of the ins and the outs.
I mean, you could grow up and still front at church.
Yes. So yeah, it was a great experience. But again, going through high school, I was still kind of going through that. I'm the token black kid. Again, in high school, so many more people of color. But I was one of the more popular kids, I guess, even though I tried not to take on the popularity role. So I kind of knew I was popular, but I was never the type of person who tried to only hang out with other athletes, other popular kids. I don't know if I always succeeded, but I was always trying to be that individual that interacted with everybody, whether you were quote unquote popular or one of the kids who didn't really talk to other people. I don't tell many people this, but I was a part of the chess club when I was in junior high school. Okay. So I always had a knack, I guess, for the nerdiness inside of me, even though I still was that athlete that was relatively good.
I mean, clearly raised right by your parents.
Yeah, I like to think so.
Yeah.
They did a pretty good job. But yeah, even as high school ended, again, just a good group of people that I was with. We're in Western PA once again, so I know that there was racism and prejudice in my high school, but it didn't happen in my graduating class as much. So I like to tell people I graduated 2005 from high school. Those who graduated 2004 before me, They probably had some crazy people. Those who graduated after me in 2006 probably had some crazy people with prejudice, racism, and everything. But my group of male, female, everybody,
That year mattered.
that year mattered. Like, to this day, I just ran into one of my friends from high school just the other day at Martin's where we were grocery shopping. And it was probably the first time I've seen him in pushing 20 years. And it was like seeing an old relative again. Like, he was my brother. And it was just like, that is family to me. Even though he didn't look like me, he didn't come from the same background as me. Like, our class was just a welcoming, loving class of people. And I think that's what really helped shape my mind as I grew up, that you should and could give people a chance. Now, I am always leery. I'm leery of everybody. But I always have in the back of my mind, maybe I should give this individual a chance. And so how I've come up and gotten to my career now, I think those individuals who grew up with me in high school kind of helped me prepare for my professional livelihood and just my mindset of how things go right now. But yeah, as I continued on and went to college, that's when I really got to consume culture, hang out with a lot more people who look like me, because there was a lot more people. Again, I came here to IUP. I guess I'm just a lifelonger here. I came here to IUP, got a whole bunch of friends, black and white, different cultures, Indian, Native American, no matter what it may be. Just, I like to gravitate towards people. I like to have conversations. But there were many times where I would just hang out with my black friends, and then I would just hang out with my white friends. So again, we're going to be going into code switching a little bit later, and that's kind of where it started. High school, junior high, I was a token black kid, so I just stayed that token black kid. As I got to college, I kind of started that switching effect.
You're able to reinvent yourself.
Reinvent myself a little bit, for sure. So just understanding, kind of growing into that dynamic. And even through my craziness of college and everything, I was still the person to go to church. So no matter what behavior I may have done on Friday, Saturday, leading up into Sunday, I was still sure that I made it to church on Sundays, because I believe that still sculpted me to be the man that I am today as well, aside from what happens in community and interacting with others. But yeah, through my college career, I believe that kind of shaped me into understanding how to really adapt and interact with different individuals, whether they are the same color or of different races. Yeah, and then it led me up into my first career. I mean, do you want me to go more into my...
Go into the professional life.
Okay. So my professional life started, so 2009, I finished my undergrad. 2010, I finished my master's, and I went right into working at the YMCA. So it was like a little delay. Jobs don't happen right away for those who think that they do. So I graduated in May, but I finally got a job in August. So May 2010, graduate. August 2010, get a job. I was a personal trainer, group exercise instructor at the YMCA here in Indiana. Undergrad was exercise science. My master's was in sports administration. So I start there, grinding away. Sometimes I'd be there 6 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning, wouldn't leave till 9 p.m. Trying to get clients, interacting with people, trying to show my face, kind of show what I do as a profession. And again, my livelihood of knowing how to interact with people, again, I just like to talk with people. I think that helped me in shaping me with that first job, because there's a lot of variety of people who are at the Y. Again, even if they look the same. Maybe some were lower SES. Maybe some were very rich and they're part of the country club. And maybe some were just middle class, people of color, people who are white. So it's just a large variety of people, but how do you interact with them? When I really get into training, I was training a 6 and 7-year-old young man, and then a couple hours later, I'd be training an 82-year-old lady. So it's understanding that dynamic as well, the age dynamic. And just how you interact with people is largely consuming of how, I believe, of how successful you can be. Again, I always have that leeriness of, will they accept me? But in staying true to myself, I just am who I am. I try to smile, interact with people, and I think that helped me be successful in my career at the Y.
I mean, I guess you can sort of see how your steps were ordered with the diverse experience of working at the Y and where you currently are now in terms of DEI IUP.
Yes, definitely, 100%. Because there were times where I would go. So I started off group exercise instructor and personal training. Then I became the director of health and wellness. So that means going to more big meetings, meetings with other YMCAs around this state, and sometimes people from other parts of the world. And then going to fundraising activities where there's very wealthy people going to the country club, going to people's houses who have heated driveways and everything else. And me being the only person that looks like me there, how do I make myself feel comfortable? I was the person, I always tried to dress nice, sometimes making myself look like I was the CEO. And that kind of sparked a conversation. Hey, what's your name? What do you do? I'm the director of health and wellness, ... It kind of opened up the door just trying to dress nice, which I was doing it for me. I wasn't even doing that for other people. I just wanted to dress nice. But it kind of sparked a conversation and let them get to know who I am before they saw who I am. You get to know who I am as Roger Briscoe before you see this black man that's coming into the country club or coming into this person who has a lot of wealth in this area. So again, I made myself approachable, even though I technically wasn't trying to, but then there's also is, again, how do you interact with people? What are you saying? Are you trying to make things lighthearted? That really, I think, again, like you said, made the difference, shaping me, getting to interact. Again, everyone who is rich also isn't from the same background. I personal trained some people who were very wealthy, and I was surprised to know that they were part of the Democratic Party. In my mind, every wealthy person that is Caucasian is a Republican. Yeah. So that's like my mindset. That's how I go into things sometimes, is sometimes a prejudice, I guess you could say, mindset. And then good things sometimes come of it. So again, just getting to know, interact, and just how you present yourself, again, physically, maybe by what you see, but then also just how you interact socially. Make that difference.
Moving forward, take us through your teaching tenure.
Yeah, so as I got to the end of my career at the Y, I started doing my doctorate. And with my doctorate, I became a graduate assistant. And then through that graduate assistantship, I moved into being a teaching associate. So I was able to teach early childhood education. Since I had a science background, I was teaching a science, health, and wellness class. And then I was teaching some classes on diversity, society, because I have a diverse background. Made sense there too. And I first went to school to be an electronic engineer, so I've always liked technology and computers. So I also taught educational technology. So 3 things that are right there in my wheelhouse, even though I was doing early childhood education, but I'd never worked in early childhood. So I did have knowledge and experience of the subject matter, even though I was never in a classroom. But still, I felt like I had imposter syndrome. I'm a black male, and if you know early childhood education, predominantly white females. So I'm a 30-something-year-old black male teaching 18 to 22-year-old white females, predominantly. There were some males, there were some young ladies of color, but still predominantly. So I've spoken at other conferences, some conferences that have to do, like Bhakti, that has to do with predominantly black people. And that's one of the first things I say. How do you think my group of students taking me in? They're probably like, or they would say, they probably didn't trust you, they probably didn't think you knew what you were talking about. I said, nope, totally opposite. I would go in there, I'd go through my syllabus, I would point out the obvious. I'm a black male. I'm your teacher. I do not mind talking about race. You'll get to know things about urban schools that maybe you will never be in, but it's good to know and understand what's going on in life. And I was like an open door, and that was gravitating to my students. At first, I didn't think it was going to work, but then you get back evaluations, and they call you your favorite professor and all these other things, and it makes you feel good. It makes you know that maybe what I'm doing is right. And I may get 99 positives and I get 1 negative. I focus on that 1 negative so I can do better for the next time. So it's truly just, again, I truly believe it's how you interact with people. Because I gravitated towards these young ladies and a few young men, and however they may represent themselves, if they're not male or female, I gravitated towards them because of my interaction. So my imposter syndrome started to dissipate after I did that for 5 years. Because I just felt comfortable. And then near the end of my teaching tenure, things just changed. IUP was going through a lot of changes. Some people were getting let go. Thank God I made the cut, but I didn't have any classes available for me anymore. So that's what led me to my role right now as the Executive Director of Student Inclusion. I was teaching some UGSS classes. So I went from teaching early child education to teaching some undergraduate studies. So it was pretty much all freshmen. And I got to interact with a lot more people of color because of that. And those who are maybe not as good at academics. Early child education, you have to have a 3.0, you got to be good in class, all these other things. Then I go to UGSS, undergraduate students. Some of them are coming in with a 2.5, maybe even a little bit lower if the school let them in. So it's working on them time management skills, study skills, note-taking skills, all these things to try to help them become successful. So I got to interact with people who look like me more, and it was a positive situation because they got to see somebody at the front of the classroom that looked like them too. But things didn't work out, and I kind of had to switch roles to what I am now. But starting there led me, I believe, to be successful where I am now. So as the director, I oversee the Multicultural Center here in Elkin. Also help oversee LGBTQIA plus support. I also work with the food pantry, Folger Student Center, and then we have a couple of scholarship programs. I oversee the CSC scholarship program, which is predominantly black and brown students who come in here with a certain GPA and they need support. They need mentoring, weekly meetings. Even later today, we're going to have our first meeting of the semester. Just how can we make sure everyone's successful? We have programs here, educational, sometimes just fun. How do we make sure you feel welcome here at IUP? So the interactions I'm able to have now, albeit it's not academic based, because I go from academic to student, it's still kind of the same impact. Can you interact with these students? Can you help influence them to achieve bigger, greater things? Can you get them to these social events to let them know there are people here that look like you and here to support you? My wife works here too. I have people that we call triplets because there's two other black males that have big beards here on campus. We call ourselves the triplets. Let them know that, first of all, we're not the same person. Second of all, we are here to support you too. Yes, we're here to support people of color and those who look like us, but we're also here to support any and everyone we can who comes through these walls, any other walls, and any other building that is here on campus. And again, I still come back to those interactions. Interactions make a big difference. How did you interact? Did they welcome you? Did they take you in? Do they trust you? Do they want to hear what you have to say and take it as something that is going to positively impact their lives? So it makes a huge difference.
It's really interesting looking at your journey where the way I would describe it is that not a single step was wasted. Every single thing in your life has built up to this moment, from being an exclusive minority growing up to working at the YMCA to your teaching tenure. All of it comes together that you can be relatable to the students that you work with. I think that's incredible. Now, before we hit this week's artist spotlight, as always, as we do with every single episode, what is the greatest piece of life advice that you can pass on to the people watching and listening?
I would definitely say I'm a Christian man, so I'm all about loving one another. And I would say the hardest part sometimes is to love somebody who you maybe don't know enough about. But I try to give people those chances. So be cautious. I would never want to say just like go up there and do whatever and get hurt. But be cautious, but sometimes be understanding, give people a chance. Again, working at the Y, I think that was probably the biggest benefactor for me because there was a lot of people who have a different political view than me, but they still had respect for me. And there were people who came from a background who I thought they must hate me, but they still respected me. So it's just try to love one another, but even if you don't want to love, respect and get to know people on a different level than what you see on the surface.
It's beautiful. I like to think that I like to give people the benefit of the doubt going through my life, because imagine if somebody came at me with prejudice, they wouldn't assume that I'm doing this, you know?
Yeah. And I kind of walk my life that way, assuming that other people see me in a certain light, but I still not try to let that consume me and protrude that to others. So I always give the example. Anytime I go to like Giant Eagle and I do self-checkout and I don't grab a bag, I try to make sure they can see the receipt as I walk out. And it's not so that they just don't see I'm stealing. It's so that the repercussions even after they think that don't have to happen. I go outside, they see me get into a decently nice car, or they go think it's mine. All these other things like just go through my head. Like they already get to prejudice me. Try not to just do that for others and try to give everyone a chance.
I hope everybody takes that to heart. Now, moving into this week's Haven Artist Spotlight, we'll be playing King Blue Heron's track Aura at Labora, which is they're coming to Haven in early February. So if you like what we're about to play, you'll be able to check them out on the weekend. Here is Aura at Labora. Hope y'all enjoyed Aura at Labora by King Blue Heron. You'll be able to find the artist link in the description below, as well as when you can find them at Haven, Oakland's newest music venue. Now, moving into this week's topic, we'll be opening up for Black History Month, breaking down the Black experience. I want this to serve as a resource for Black people in terms of bettering ourselves as individual, and for allies who want to be more in tune with the Black experience. So for this week, Dr. Roger Briscoe will be talking about the topic of code switching. I leave the floor open to you.
Very much. So kind of going back onto how I came up, just through elementary leading up to where I am now. I found the topic of code switching to be very important because, again, it's all about relations and how you interact with others. And I often express, sometimes I'm in the same room with my triplets, the two other gentlemen that look like, there's some
we have
quality traits,
characteristics.
Similar quality traits and characteristics. Sometimes I'm in the room with them. We like to have fun, goof around. But then at the same time, our VP of Student Affairs is in there, and or our president is in there of the university. So it's how do you interact with one another, because you also have students in there, other faculty, staff maybe. How do you interact with one another but still stay true to yourself? So I go over the topic of code switching, but I do it in a positive manner. It's not code switching in a way that you're not staying true to yourself. I like to laugh, I like to joke, I like to have fun. I still do that even with the president of the university, and he takes it very well. But I do it in a different manner than I would with the triplets of the three of us. So we'll joke around, we'll say some stuff, sometimes funny, sometimes things we have to whisper. But then when I'm doing it or having fun, lighthearted conversations with the president, I just talk a little bit differently. I express myself a little bit differently, but I still do it with the same smile and the same enthusiasm. I will still say a fun joke that is lighthearted, but nothing that's belittling or something that's inappropriate. And when I go to the Vice President of Student Affairs, who is actually an African-American male on our campus, I get to still have jokes with him that are a little bit based on our culture. But I don't do those same jokes with our president because he's a white male. But I still understand how far I should and could go to still be respectable. And that's what it's about. So when I think of the code switching, it's how can you be respectful to one another, understanding their position, and how you should and could interact.
So for a Black individual who wants to stay true to themselves, when it comes to this whole topic of code switching, I like to think that not that Black people are a monolith, but that Black culture, in terms of how we speak, we're more laid back, or we're joking with each other and whatnot. While sometimes in a professional setting, you got to be a little bit button up. How do we juggle both of these worlds without losing ourselves?
I think it's that kind of like fun factor to it, where you can smile and have fun and do it in a joking way, but again, staying true to yourself. So even some of the words that we use that are maybe slang or anything else like that, you just have to use it kind of appropriately and in the right context, and it can still be used. Again, when I'm talking to my president, who's very inept and kind of straightforward with the things and the things you kind of joke about and laugh about, I would use slang, but I wouldn't use it for like every other word. So I would like say, man, there's a lot of kids up in here. I would say that to him, but I wouldn't say it in a way where it sounded like I was trying to be more black or anything else like that. But I would still, that's something that I would say walking into a room. I wouldn't change the inflection so much or how I'm talking. It's just using the appropriate words at the right time. Because it's not like I talk differently when I'm with the president. Hey, how you doing, sir? Or anything else like that. I'm still saying, hey, how you doing? Dr. Briscoe, nice to see you again today. It's still just me. I'm just watching what I say and how I say it and in the manner I say it. And then Dr. Seeger, again, our Vice President of Student Affairs, there are times where I will just go up and just regularly shake his hand. And there are times where we dap each other up a little bit. It just depends on where we are. When he first comes in, if the president's standing right there next to me, I'll just regularly shake his hand. But if I see him a little bit later, hey, how are things going? Hey, you having a good night so far? That's when I can just dap him up. So I'm still staying true to myself. And you can quote unquote say it's code switching, but it's just doing the right things at the right time, I believe. And again, even when it comes to how you speak, there aren't times where I try to use bigger words in front of the president or anything else like that. If I'm sending an email or doing something, I'm trying to ask a certain thing from them. Yes, you want to be very professional and articulate in how you're expressing things. But especially since I'm student affairs and we're trying to be out there with our students and show that we are just human and we're here to support you and we may not be your peers, quote unquote, because like we said, we've double their age, but we're still here to support you and let you feel like, man, this is like a family member who is trying to help support me. That's what I want them to feel like. Not that you're above me and I can't really come to you and ask questions and get to know you. So that's what it comes down to, your relatability. Once again, can you relate to them to the point where they feel comfortable coming to you to express themselves, coming to you to ask questions, coming to you to see what they're doing wrong? Because that takes a lot for somebody to say, what am I doing? Well, how can I make things better? And getting those conversations, you know you've done something right if you're getting that from your students.
So 2 more points to hit on before we get out of here. A lot of the people who are watching or listening to this are young, black, budding professionals as we're coming up on graduation, trying to enter the workforce. How is the best way that we should conduct ourselves as black professionals? Not to say that we have to change ourselves to fit into the professional work culture, but that we can be a black professional.
Right, 100%. So without changing yourself, it's just knowing how to, that's why I say interactions with people are so important. It's just how are you going to communicate and interact with them? Because at one point, when I was growing my hair out, I was like, should I grow my hair out? Because I'm about to be at the front of the classroom. That's when I pretty much started growing my hair, is right before I started getting in front of the classroom. And my wife said to me, you can't change who you are and who you want to be because of your hair. And you have to be who you are. I compare it to just like, again, I go to church. There are certain things that you know that you just shouldn't say in a church. Like, I'm not going to go to the church and swear. I tried to swear in the first place, but I'm definitely not going to try to do it inside of the church. Just think of that concept when you're interacting with people. You could say almost anything, but it has to be appropriate. And it has to be in the right context and in the right manner. So stay true to yourself, but just know there's certain things that maybe you just shouldn't say. And I think that's what it comes down to. What should and shouldn't I say? Don't change the way you talk. Just say things that are appropriate in the situation that you're in. And it's always going to be different. I'm the person, when somebody wants to talk politics with me, I'll ask questions. And my questions kind of articulate my standing point. So I never say for the most part, how I feel on a subject matter. Somebody expresses something, I say, what about this, this, this? How do you feel about this? So I'm basically having them answer my questions to get to the point that I'm trying to draw without me saying my point. And so if you use a tactic like that, that's what I mean by knowing how to articulate and how to talk without staying true to yourself. I don't want to say how I feel about a certain matter because I just don't like talking politics.
Let them come to that
Let
conclusion.
them come to that conclusion.
That's a great way of doing
that. So that's the same concept. Can you talk in a way that they can get a conclusion without you having to cuss them out? Yeah. So I'm not going to cuss in church, but I'm going to correct you by saying certain things. That is what you want to do through code switching. So I'm ready to cuss you out, but I'm just going to do this. I'm going to switch it up a little bit. And I'm just going to maybe ask some questions, have you get a little bit of insight of where I'm coming from through question asking, and you'll still get to your point.
So last thing to touch on, coming from the other side of the aisle, as an educator, as somebody who's been a professional for coming on 15 years now, how can people who are higher up in positions of power allow Black professionals to thrive without policing who they are?
Oh, yeah, that's big. So communication. When I first started here, I kind of made it known that I need to be who I am to be successful. So I communicated that. Even with my VP of Student Affairs, I said, hey, I know this, and this is what you want. I don't know what it was like before I got here, but I believe I need this, and this to be successful. I know I'm good at what I do because I have a passion for what I do. I'm not trying to be arrogant. I'm just trying to let you know that things can get done if you let me be me type of thing. So I just communicated it. I think that's one of the biggest things. You can't be fearful to express yourself. And that's where the staying true to yourself comes in. Got to be respectful. Got to stay true to yourself, but you got to say how you feel and what you think you need to be a professional. And I think that's what makes the biggest difference. Because coming up, I was shy to do that. So first 2 years, it was tough. As I became the director, as you feel like you have experience, it's something that you can consume now, but maybe it does take some time and experience. But as that experience comes, you need to have that backbone to defend yourself. We always say you got to advocate for yourself. It's pretty much the same thing. Can you express what you want and what you're looking to get out of this and say, I'm the right person for this job. There's no need to deter or think that I can't do it. Can you show that, articulate that? Do you have experience for that? I think that was what makes the biggest difference from professionals seeing you saying, it doesn't even matter what he looks like. I know he can do this. It has to come to that.
Before we get out of here, is there anything else you want to get across to the audience?
I can't stress enough, be true to yourself. Do not change who you are. If you're a black male, be a black male. Be yourself. But just know that there are more people in this world than you probably think who are there to support you. Again, I go into every situation with the mindset, they're not here for me. And even though that's my mindset, I don't portray that. I still try to be loving, try to be accepting, and I try to be true to myself. And good things have come out of it every single time. Oddly enough, my mindset is prepare for the worst, hope for the best. And I do that every time. My mind just prepares for the worst, saying this person's not here for me. And then I'm able to flourish. And again, it's that interaction, communication. So be willing to open up to those who you feel like maybe aren't there for you because they may be there to be your number one supporter. You didn't even realize it.
It's great, man.
Thank you.
Now,
Thank you.
this has been another amazing episode of the Let's Talk Social Innovation podcast. Y'all remember the name, Dr. Roger Briscoe II, Executive Director of Student Inclusion at Indiana University of Pennsylvania. All things Dr. Briscoe and IUP will be in the description of this episode. But anyways, y'all, this is your host, Ian Kahende. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and we're signing off.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.